Hey everybody, this is Jeremy Siskind. Today we're going to talk about what you actually do with a transcription. I think many students of jazz know that they need to transcribe something in order to get better. But what are the actual steps that you take after you transcribe something to really get the most out of it? Sometimes I say to squeeze the most juice out of that lemon. Now before I get started, this might come to a shock for some of you who have been following my channel for a while. I'm going to actually plug something other than my book, although I do encourage you to buy my wonderful book, Playing Solo Jazz Piano. But I wanted to actually invite you guys. I teach at a community college called Fullerton College, and because it's a community college, anybody can sign up for classes there. So although hopefully you're really enjoying my YouTube videos, the YouTube videos are kind of scattered. I talk about whatever I'm interested in that day. This class will really take you from the really beginning steps of playing jazz piano to more and more advanced levels. With assignments, with chances to get feedback directly from me. So I really encourage you to check it out. It's also very affordable. For California residents, it's about $50 for the whole semester. And for non-California residents, it's still an amazing deal. I think it's between $300 and $400, which you'll get 32 classes, including lots of individual feedback from me. So I encourage you to check it out. I've made a frequently asked questions page at jeremysiskind.com/jazzclass. I'll post that link in the comments, but if you've always wanted to pursue jazz piano, this is probably one of the most affordable and I guarantee you one of the most fun ways to do it. So check that out and let me know if you have questions. All right, let's get on with the real show here, which is about learning from a transcription. Now, for our example, I'm going to take this very simple phrase from a Wynton Kelly transcription. So here I'm playing a B-flat dominant in my left hand. It's a kind of ascending arpeggio, and it's very simple, right? It's a triad arpeggio starting on the fifth. And there's a little repetition in there. But it's just overall a very simple triad arpeggio. So when you come across something like this in a transcription, I guess the first thing I should say about transcribing is that the number one reason to transcribe is to try to get into the feel of whoever you're transcribing. So before any of this, play that transcription along with the artist 50 times. And you can't do it enough. Sing the transcription along with the artist. Play it while listening to the different members of the band. Because remember, that's who the artist was actually listening to as they were improvising. So if you transcribed a piano solo, great, play that piano solo and listen to the ride cymbal of the drummer. Play that piano solo and listen to the bass line, because you'll also start to notice ways that the musicians are interacting. Okay, so taking now this line, the first thing that I would do with a phrase that you like from a transcription is to transpose it to different keys. This one's very easy to transpose because it's a triad, but the transposing is going to give you a chance to really soak it up a little bit more, do a little bit of analysis. I'll realize, oh, this starts on the fifth. Just get it into your ear in some different keys. And during this step, you can also try to see, well, could I apply this to different chord types? I told you that Wynton Kelly plays this on a dominant chord. But it would also work pretty nicely, I think, on a major 7th chord. That's cool. What if, we could start asking ourselves questions like, what if I want to do this with a minor 7th chord? I would have to change this D natural, the major third, into a minor third, right? That works. Would it even work on a half diminished chord? Then I'd have to make a flat 5. I think it works. It's a little bit weird, it's a little funky, but I like it. Or a fully diminished chord. So you could start asking yourself those questions as you transpose it. You could also try thinking about chord type. Okay, then I would insert it into tunes. So whatever tune you're working on, you should be always working on 2 or 3 tunes. Say, okay, I'm going to use this in my tune. Let's take Autumn Leaves. So get it in your ear. exercise for myself. I'm like, every 2 measures, now I'm gonna play this lick. And you might run into problems at this point. You might say, you might run into a place where, I don't know, right? There's a clash, and so that might cause you to rethink, okay, where can I use this, where can't I use this? And on all means, I think it works beautifully. Great. So then, the next thing I would do is I would analyze and think about a concept, okay? So, if I learn this lick, I've just learned one lick. And can you think about, if you learn a language sentence by sentence, how many sentences you'd have to learn before you could say everything you wanted to express? It would be exhausting. You'd never get there. So what we want to do with these licks is instead think about some concepts that are a little bit more broad, that don't just take literally that lick, but ask yourself, what is happening that's attractive to me? And there's kind of a lot of answers that you could have. But this is important because then you're going to adopt that into your playing. And just to be clear, there's not a right or wrong answer when it comes to what the concept is for any one lick. In fact, you could take this same lick I'm going to show you, and you could come up with 4, 5, 6 different concepts that you could then go and apply. And I encourage you to do that. Again, it's just squeezing all of the juice out of that fruit. Okay? So, any lick is going to have a rhythm. And you could isolate that rhythm. Ba-ba-doo-da-da-da. Ba-ba-doo-da-da-da. Create new phrases based on that rhythm. Licks also have a shape, and I'm a big advocate for thinking a lot about shape in improvisation, because one of the biggest differences between mediocre jazz players and really good jazz players is the kinds of shapes that they use, how much it turns, how much it twists and turns. And this is kind of an interesting shape because of how uninteresting it is. It's kind of a rocket just going up. So what if, could I improvise using only shapes that go directly up? It's weird, it's unusual. And then thinking about chord tones and scales, right? So this is also, pretty easy here. And so the concept here would be that we're only using triads, right? We're using only the notes of the triad. And so you can start to ask yourself, what else could I improvise using only the notes of the triad? I think that's kind of an interesting thing. So if I wanted to use only the notes of the C minor triad on leaves, could I come up with other... And then... doesn't sound too bad. As long as you've got all the nice color tones in the left hand, you can get away with having some triads in the right. You could also think about the motivic relationship. Here, it actually doesn't apply because this would be a way of connecting between 2 licks. I'll give you an example. Since we're talking about Wynton Kelly, we have this famous solo on Freddie Freeloader at the very beginning. He kind of plays a similar phrase, once going up and once going down to the same note. It goes up to B flat. So I would think of that as a motivic relationship of how those 2 phrases relate. One goes up to a B flat and then the other goes down to the same pitch. So I could improvise. Play off of that motivic relationship. You could also think about a pianistic something. Here, I find it really interesting that it's mixing octaves and single notes. Right? Octave, single note, octave, single note, octave. Could I improvise phrases that do that same thing? So you want to look at what's going on pianistically too. But what I would do from there is I would isolate one of these concepts, and then we want to apply that concept to a tune. And at first overdo it. So use only that concept. If you decide that your concept is going to be the rhythm ba-ba-do-da-ba-da, play through the entire tune of Autumn Leaves, put on a timer for 15 minutes, and only use that rhythm. Decide your concept is only using triads, then really stick to that. I wanted to go for the seventh there. Yourself to it, because the whole point of this is to get you into some new territory, improvising, right? And so if you're defaulting and saying, oh, I'll let myself play the seventh, I'll let myself play the ninth, you're not really getting into any new territory, right? So overdo it. And then you want to practice actually scaling it back. You want to practice, can I integrate this rhythm into the tune? So let's get back to boo-ba-doo-da-ba-da. So now I want to kind of see if I can insert that, even to the point where you might not notice it. Times in there, but I was trying to disguise it and camouflage it. If it's all about playing the triads, then great, let's try to use that scaled back more in the context of the tune. Triad. So I'm trying to mix it. If I'm thinking about just using phrases that go directly up, let's try that. That was kind of interesting. It made me go up to the top of the piano more than I intended. This next one's supposed to say next steps, but I wrote next times because I'm a genius. Sign up for my class. More hijinks like that. So then what I would do is I would think about, okay, now I've got this one concept. Where else could I push that? So let me give you a couple of examples. So when it comes to rhythm, you might want to put a lead into that rhythm, instead of 1, 2, ba ba doo da da. Maybe it could be 1, 2, ba doo ba doo ba ba da. to add on to the ending. 1, 2, do ba do da ba da da da. Something that keeps what you like about the lick, but really adds to it and extends it. If I'm thinking about using a triad only, it might be interesting to think, what if I used a triad other than the triad of the root? So, on C minor, what if I really focused on the E flat major triad? So that's the 3rd, 5th, and 7th, That gives a different sound. Or what if I focused on B flat, D, and F? The 7th, 9th, and 11th. So you still get the sound of a triad, that kind of brightness, that clarity, but it feels a little bit different. If I'm thinking about making a shape that goes directly up, what if I think about making a shape that goes directly down? Right? If I'm thinking about mixing octaves and single notes, maybe I want to start thinking about mixing fifths and single notes. So instead of going, or maybe I think about mixing thirds and single notes. A spark of inspiration from that lick, and then thinking, where else could this go? Where do I want to hear it go? Where was I kind of instinctively wanting to add to it that I wasn't, able to within my strict exercise? So you could see how this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 note phrase could spark weeks of exploration, right? And with a whole solo, what I would do is I would choose, I had a teacher who told me to choose 5 melodic, 5 harmonic, and 5 rhythmic ideas to play around with. Now, you don't have to be quite that strict with yourself. You can kind of mix and match, but try to choose some of each idea to focus on. And then remember, you can also choose pianistic ideas, like using an octave, or it could be, what is the relationship between the pianist's right hand and left hand at a certain spot, or if they're playing solo piano, it could be something in terms of the voicing that they're using. That could be the case if they're playing with a trio as well. So I hope that helps you. Let me just show you this whole screen. So what you want to do first is you're going to transpose your lick so that you get to know it. Secondly, you're going to insert it literally into tunes. So take that exact same lick and put it everywhere you can in Autumn Leaves or whatever tune. Then, this is the fun part, you get to analyze and figure out what you love about the lick, what you want to imitate, what you want to really adapt into your own playing. Some options are rhythm, shape, chord tones or scales being used, relationship between motives, and I'm going to add, anything pianistic, how the left hand relates to the right, anything like that. Then you'll apply that concept. You'll overdo it, and then try to make sure that you can actually do it in context. So apply the concept, scale back, and integrate, it says tastefully here. And then for your next steps, you're going to think, what else can that concept spark for you? What else could we maybe add to it? What might you subtract from it to make it really worthwhile? So my name is Jeremy Siskind. Please like, subscribe. This is my book, Playing Solo Jazz Piano, the greatest book ever written. Join me for a class. We'll have a great time, and I will see you again soon.